Zuber and Company, fire forensic experts and forensic engineers. Seeking answers from ashes. Seeking answers.
You've got a blockbuster film, a political firestorm, and a multi-million-dollar insurance policy that's supposed to be your safety net. But what happens when that net just tears? We're about to unpack a wild, high-stakes legal battle that pulls back the curtain on all the hidden tripwires in the fine print of a policy you thought had you covered. And no, this isn't some hypothetical situation. We are digging into a real case file, the official order from India's National Consumer Disputes Redressal Commission. The fight was real, the money was real, and the stakes, well, they were incredibly high. All right, so put yourself in these shoes for a second. You're a film distributor. You just placed a massive bet on a new movie, and to protect that bet, you do the smart thing. You buy loss of revenue insurance. Then your worst-case scenario happens. Political protests erupt, your film gets banned from theaters, and you're losing millions. But hey, it's okay, you've got insurance, right? So you file your claim, and the insurance company says, nope. We're not paying. What do you even do then? Okay, so to really get what's going on here, we've got to set the scene. We need to understand the key players and the, let's just say, very intense situation they were dealing with. And it all started with one movie. The movie was a big-time Telugu feature film called Adhurs. Now, the distributor, a company called Asian Theatres, had bought the rights for a huge territory, the Nizam area, which you'd know today as Telangana. For them, this wasn't just another movie night. This was a massive financial investment that they absolutely had to protect. And just look how fast everything went sideways. In December 2009, they get the insurance policy. January 13th, 2010, the film hits theaters. Almost immediately, protests tied to the Telangana statehood movement start targeting the movie. And then, get this, less than a month after it came out, on February 8th, the Telangana Joint Action Committee calls for a total ban. The movie is yanked from every single theater in the region, just like that. With their entire revenue stream just cut off at the knees, Asian theaters did the logical thing. They turned to their insurer. I mean, they had a policy for this exact situation, losses from riots and civil unrest. But this, my friends, is where the real drama gets started. Here it is, the official repudiation letter. That's the fancy industry term for a flat-out denial. But what's really staggering here is the date, June 12, 2012. They filed their claim way back in early 2010. Can you imagine that? They had to wait more than 2 years just to be told no. So you have to ask, what were the insurer's reasons? So the insurance company basically built their whole case for denial on two main arguments. First, they claimed a breach of contract, saying the distributor never told them the movie's release date had changed. And second, they started playing the blame game, alleging that the film's producer stirred the pot with inflammatory comments, and so the distributor had to foot the bill. Let's break each of these down. All right. So the first pillar of the insurer's case was this whole idea of non-communication. They were essentially saying, hey, you changed a key detail, the release date, and you never told us. So sorry, your policy is worthless. And this immediately became a classic he said, she said. The insurer was dug in, saying we never got any official notice about this, not directly. But the distributor's response was just as firm. Oh, we absolutely sent the information. Maybe not to you, but to the person who sold us the policy, our insurance broker. And boom, here is the proof. The distributor produced this email and others just like it that they'd sent to their broker. You can see it right there, plain as day, dated December 17, 2009. It clearly says the release was postponed and asks the broker to, and I quote, please inform Oriental Insurance to give effect to the change. So the message was sent. But here's the million-dollar question. Does telling your broker count as telling the insurance company? This brings us to the absolute crux of the case. See, an insurance broker isn't just some salesperson. Legally, they are a regulated professional. Their entire job is to be the conduit, the information pipeline. And the court found that under the law, when you tell your broker something important, it's exactly the same as telling the insurance company itself. So once that was established, the insurer's first argument just completely crumbled. And the court's language here is, wow, incredibly strong. They didn't just disagree. They said the denial was based on a totally wrong premise and was just plain erroneously and against records. Basically, they said the insurer was wrong on the facts, and even their own documents proved it.
Okay, so with their first argument in shambles, the insurer pivoted to their second line of attack. This one was less about technicalities and more about pointing fingers. They actually tried to argue that the distributor was responsible for its own losses.
The insurer's new claim was that the film's producer had made some provocative comments that made the political situation even worse. But the distributor's defense was simple and, honestly, brilliant. First, they said, hang on, we're the distributor, not the producer. We can't be held responsible for what some other party supposedly said. And then came the knockout blow. Show us the proof. They argued there was zero evidence these comments were ever even made.
And you know what? The court completely agreed. They found that the insurance company couldn't produce a single shred of evidence to back up their accusation. The court called the argument purely speculative and, in another absolutely scathing takedown, dismissed it as a lame excuse to deny a legitimate claim. Ouch. So let's recap. Both of the insurer's main arguments have been systematically taken apart, piece by piece, by the evidence and the law. The stage was set for the final judgment. The verdict was crystal clear. The court ruled 100% in favor of the film distributor, Asian Theatres. They found the denial of the claim was completely unjustified and ordered the insurance company to pay up. But how much? The final net amount awarded by the court for just the loss of revenue was a little over 3.8 crore rupees. Now that is a massive sum of money, and it really drives home just how significant the financial hit was from that theater ban. But that wasn't all. The court wasn't finished. They also ordered the insurer to pay interest on that amount, all the way back to the date the complaint was filed. And on top of that, they awarded an extra 1.5 lakh rupees as compensation for the harassment and the unfair denial, plus legal costs. So the really crucial takeaway here is that the final bill was way, way higher than the original claim the insurer tried to get out of paying.
So this has been a really fascinating deep dive into one specific case, right? But the principles the court laid out here have huge implications for pretty much anyone who holds an insurance policy, whether it's for your business, your car, or your home.
So what's the bottom line for you? It really comes down to 4 key things. First, your broker is your legal pipeline to the insurer. Telling them is the same as telling the company, period. Second, document everything. Those emails were a key that blew this case wide open. A paper trail is your best defense. Third, an insurer can't deny your claim for one reason and then invent new ones when they get to court. They've got to stick to their original story. And finally, and this is probably the most important one, don't be afraid to challenge a denial that just doesn't feel right. As this case proves, a determined fight based on facts can absolutely win. Kind of makes you wonder, doesn't it? How well do you really know the fine print in your own policy? And that's all for this explainer. Thanks so much for joining us.